Folks, what's going on? If you're watching this on release day, then happy Monday, or maybe just some random Monday in the future. Who knows? We are going to have another awesome battle in Total War, Warhammer 2. This one is going to be featuring the Beastie Boys, or Beastmen, and they will be facing off against Ikit and his Skaven Vermintide over here. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. Let's start by checking out the Beastmen army here. The Beastmen are going to be led by Morghur the Shadowgave. Now, anybody not super familiar with the Beastmen or this character, basically Morghur can heal. He doesn't have great armor, and, is decent offensively. He has poison attacks, but he summons Chaos Spawn, so basically Morghur can increase the size of his army, at least temporarily, because summons do deteriorate over time. Now, he's going to be supported here by these awesome Beastmen. This is going to be our Koroks Man Rippers. This is a special Bestigor herd that is armed with a halberd so that they do anti-large damage, not just armor-piercing like your standard Bestigor herd. There are also some Minotaurs with great weapons. These guys are going to be a real force to be reckoned with. The Skaven will definitely want to deal with these units as they can cause just tremendous damage to just about any unit the Skaven can field. I'm not saying they're good in every engagement. Obviously, you wouldn't want them engaged with a bunch of spears or halberds, but a good unit overall. And let's not forget the Bray Shaman, Lore of Death over here. So he's going to be rocking, looks like Spirit Leech, Doom and Darkness, and Soul Blight, I believe are the ones. Or no, sorry, Aspect of Dread Knight. That's actually a really interesting pick. And you can see that he's also got the Jagged Dagger here to increase reserves. So Soul Blight, Doom and Darkness and Aspect of Dread Knight are a really cool pick. Aspect of Dread Knight can make units cause terror for a short time. And if it's overcast, it'll have an effect area. What it can be useful for is if you have a unit about to rear charge, you can cast that, and it can potentially terror out units that are susceptible to it. And Doom and Darkness, of course, is a -16 leadership. It only goes on one unit on a normal cast, but an overcast has an area of effect. And against factions with low leadership, it can be absolutely devastating, aka the Skaven. Or Beastmen, for that matter. It could be used well against the Beastmen. We've also got the Destroyers of the Drakkwald over here. These man goats have eaten a few too many blueberries, I guess, recently, or they just have really bad circulation. I can't figure out which one it is. You all tell me. And then the front line, not surprisingly, going up against Skaven is just going to be a ton of Ungor herds. This is a pretty solid unit. You can see that there are a few Gore herds in reserve. And like I said, they're all supported in the back by Koroks Man Rippers. There are also a couple of Ungor Raiders. I think Ungor Raiders are an underestimated unit. They can do a lot of really good work, and just need to be brought as kind of a check against cheap skirmishers that could be fielded to good effect against the Beastmen. And then there's some Centaurs with great weapons that were Vanguard deployed in the jungle here, out ahead of their lines. And then let's switch over to Ikit. We do have Boss Ikit right here in his little hamster wheel. I say hamster wheel. This is one menacing hamster wheel, but at least it gets him his exercise. Ikit definitely needs to keep up the exercise when he's been hitting the warpstone that hard. So he's got some Rat Ogres out here on the flank. Great flank unit. Rat Ogres should do well. High damage. Be able to help fend off any Beastmen cavalry or help blob it up. There is, in terms of the Skaven army, the front line is just Skaven slaves. This is basically to absorb all the charge from the Beastmen and act as chaff. It's not a bad pick for the Skaven by any means. Ikit is going to be supported by a Warlock Engineer, and he does have the warp armor? I think it's just warp armor is what it's called. Warpstone armor, my bad. Anyway, Warpstone armor is kind of like a Mortis Engine effect whenever he gets into melee. It's actually very effective, and you can see he doesn't even have any spells on this Warlock Engineer. It's just a support for some infantry. It's a really good pick. You don't see these all the time with the Skaven army, and it's definitely a way to do some extra damage to an enemy. On the other flank, we actually have the Wheels of Doom. This is the very nice blue glowing Regiment of Renowned Doom Wheel here. So you gotta love that. It's also supported by Rat Ogres. And as far as rest of the Skaven infantry, there is some meat in this army. It's gonna be the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers. This is a Flaming Attack Regiment of Renown variant of a normal Clan Rat. And then we've got the Plague Monks here. They're also on the other flank. And then I really like this Warp Grinder. We've seen this be used to good effect against the Beastmen before in a different battle. The Warp Grinder has a nice area of control effect. They can lock down an area around certain units, and they also can cause damage. It's an ability that has a recharge time, so they can't do it all the time, but it's a good way to stop maybe some key rear charges and stuff going on. There are also 4 Skaven Slave Slingers spread out. Skaven Slave Slingers are very cheap, they don't do much damage, and they have fairly limited range, but they have a few things that make them very worthwhile for their cost in a low armor matchup like this one. That's going to be this strength in numbers here. This is very important to them, and then this scurry away, giving them extra speed. Both of these abilities combined can be a big deal in making them difficult to catch for infantry units especially. And even though they don't do a lot of damage early, late in a game, these guys can be brutal just because of the impact on leadership and the slow ticking away of damage on certain units. So it just kind of depends on how they get used. I like that they're being kept back here in the back. Let's go ahead and get the battle playing. And this one is a good one. I think you all will enjoy it quite a lot. Early on, there is going to be a bit of a skirmish against the rat ogres over here with the centigores with great weapons. So I'll try and catch that as it comes. And then otherwise, you can see Ikit and his Doomwheel are looking to get engaged quick. The Beastmen deployed very close to the Skaven and close the distance near instantly and start to chew through the Skaven slaves, while the Skaven move up their second line in order to be ready to reinforce once the slaves inevitably fall apart. But here's one of the usefulnesses of the slaves. They've held the line long enough for the Wheels of Doom to arrive and start to absolutely crush that Ungor herd. And then as we move on over here to the other flank, the destroyers of the Drakewald are rushing into a fight because, look at this, the Brass Orb, the Rat Ogres, and Ikit have absolutely shut down the Centigores with great weapons, and the destroyers of the Drakewald will be late to that fight. You can also see the Minotaurs with great weapons working their way out to that flank. Now see the cheap Skaven Slave Slingers just taking cheap shots. Look how quickly the Wheels of Doom able to wrap up the left flank of the Beastmen. And you got this Warlock Engineer here in the middle as well. The Bray Shaman, Lore of Death, will have to be very careful. That Doomwheel will shut him down quick if he gets stuck. And he is about to get stuck. He's attacked the Warlock Engineer, but pushed into the area of effect from the Warp Grinders, who have locked down this area and are causing some really nice damage in the vicinity to the Ungor herd, allowing the Storm Council the Council Guard Storm Vermin, Storm Council, wow, way to do it, Air. Anyway, they've come in over here, Rat Ogres and Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, slamming into more Ungor herd, and already the Beastmen line is suffering. However, Korok's Man Rippers weren't able to lock down the Wheels of Doom, but they were able to get over here in a fight against some Plague Monks, and then Morghur was able to summon up a unit of Chaos Spawn behind them and absolutely shred a pretty dangerous unit of infantry from the Skaven. You can see the main line, though, the Skaven have utterly destroyed it, and now the Death Shaman is being pushed back by the Wheels of Doom. The Ungor Raiders are showing some value here as they get good cheap shots into the the Council Guard Storm Vermin. It's going to be a new Dragonborn for me. So you can see Ikit Claw here pushing back those archers, as he should. Ooh, I love the scenery back here in the back, too. It's very appropriate. Looks very nice. Morghur is also pinned in a huge fight back here with some Warp Grinders and all the Skaven Slave Slingers and Rat Ogres. He's in a little bit over his head. And where the Skaven did great early in the infantry fight, some of the Beastmen have stuck around, and some even regrouped, and the Skaven find themselves in pretty bad shape here in the center. The Wheels of Doom is not going to want to stick around here and get bogged down by Chaos Spawn in the midst of the Man Rippers. Man Ripper or Rat Ripper, those guys will do their job effectively in that fight. This Bray Shaman Lore of Death is actually dancing with death here, pinned between two Doom Wheels. He is certainly taking his life into his own hands, though he does get a very nice Spirit Leech off on Ikit Claw, who's already quite low, having had a narrow escape earlier from the Minotaurs with great weapons. And look at this, the Man Rippers and the Summons cleaning up the middle, so the infantry fight starting poorly. Ikit Claw goes down and is KO'd, and look here, there's a nice bomb about to go off, though, in his remembrance. Woo! So Ikit Claw's up in a mushroom cloud of glory, not able to survive, and the Wheels of Doom clean up everything else here. They do take some fire, though, from the Ungor Raiders. Ungor Raiders. Am I getting the name right? I am. Yay! I did make a new name for them. So the Ungor Raiders are doing a great job getting some damage on a very expensive unit. But now, look at this. Late in the game, the Warp Grinders are still here. Remember, they can control areas pretty good. And you got the cheap sling. Actually, some of these are Night Runners. I hadn't caught that initially. Some of these are... Ooh, yeah, Night Runners are going to be an interesting unit. They're not, like, spectacular, but they're definitely better than a Skaven slave slinger. There's more Night Run slingers over here. See, there's some Skaven slaves. So they're mixed in. The Skaven slave slingers obviously do considerably less damage than the Night Runners. Let's take a look at everything here. Look at this Destroyer of the Drakkwald is going to tie down the Council Guard. And speaking of tie down, the Minotaurs with great weapons came in here to get the Rat Ogres, and now they're going to be damaged pretty badly here by the Warp Grinders. And this is an important unit for the Beastmen. It needs to be alive. It's one of the few units that can stop this machine that just charged it in the back. You can see that the Wheels of Doom doesn't want to stick around here and get bogged down. But it is doing a great job of creating some targets for these Skaven Slave Slingers in the background, as well as the Night Runners. So this Korok Man Ripper is a great target. And look at this. Morghur is going to get run down in an act of merciless, reckless, vehicular manslaughter here from the Wheels of Doom. Oh man, this game's beautiful. Yeah, look at the Slinger Fire just coming in. Constant chipping away and damage here. Unfortunately for the Skaven, though, the Warp Grinders get absolutely knocked out of the fight. They are shattered, and the Wheels of Doom gets caught here, and it is not going to last long. So the Minotaurs with great weapons show their value as they put down a very expensive unit from the Skaven army. Look at this, though. The Death Shaman here, very important unit. And then also check this out here. The Warlock Engineer's been fighting all these guys, and because of his warp armor, he's slowly ticking away all their hit points too. Ends up being a pretty effective fight, but then he gets hit with a Doom and Darkness from the Death Shaman right before he routs, and it causes the Warlock Engineer to rout. But look, even when he routs, if you take him in melee, you're still getting hit by the warp armor, so you just really don't want to touch that guy. See the Minotaurs moving out to try and finish him off, and the Slinger's getting some great cheap shots on him, but the Slinger's now under some pretty constant pressure. I told you these guys weren't real easy to catch, and this is proof of that. Beastmen infantry are pretty fast. They are pretty fast for infantry, and they are struggling to keep up with these Slingers. And then that allows them to get caught in the crossfire here from the other Slingers as well. So it's a pretty big deal. Morghur has come over to help support these archers. The archers are now letting the the destroyers of the Drakkwald, they're not going to be defending the Drakkwald anytime soon, letting the destroyers of the Drakkwald be kind of an anvil here, and the hammer, rather than being a cavalry attack, is in fact an archer attack. And having those skirmishers is going to be really handy too, because you can see what these Slingers are doing out here. They've routed the Ungor herds that were supporting the Man Rippers. The Man Rippers are well armored, so it will be slow damage from the Slingers, but all of this is critical damage. This is a very important unit, and just absorbing all this sling damage for it really sucks. It's just caught out there. There's not much they can do about it. See some Rat Ogres regrouped, came back into the Destroyers of the Drakkwald, attempting to bail out the Council Guard, who is in very dire straits here, being shot in the back. Even though it has decent armor, when you can't block missile fire like this, it hurts. And regardless of your unit being unbreakable, the pain is going to mount here for the Skaven. They do have a lot of skirmishers left, and those skirmishers are doing a really solid job, but the army losses mount, and Skaven is just not able to hold it together. Very close fight, very fun fight here between the Beastmen and the Skaven. I love the matchup of these factions because they're just interesting. Beastmen, I know, really need some DLC love, especially considering, you know, factions like the Vampires and the Dark Elves and the Lizards have gotten DLC out their ears, which is fine. I'm happy with DLC. I'm not asking it to stop because I love having all the extra content, but people sometimes underestimate the capability of the Beastmen in certain matchups. I'm not necessarily saying they own the matchup between Skaven and Beastmen. I don't believe they do, but they can certainly be fun in the sense that Beastmen are tremendously good against low armor factions when used properly. They do a ton of damage. Now, yeah, they have a few other units, like Bestigor, like Minotaur, some of these other units that can dish out a whole lot of damage, and they're very effective when they do. I just like them because they're a fast-paced, aggressive faction. They're fun to play with. Yeah, they're a little squishy, especially in certain matchups against, you know, like I don't love Beastmen against the Undead. That can be a particularly difficult matchup for the Beastmen, but I do like them against, say, like Skaven. They're fun against the Empire, even though they don't necessarily hold advantages per se there. They do well against Empire infantry for the most part and can shut down skirmish games. So that's why I like them against Empire. I find Beastmen to be really fun against, I'm trying to think of some other low armor ones here. Yeah, Skaven, Empire, There's a lot of other factions that can typically run low armor. Tomb Kings, though that is a difficult matchup because of the caskets. Like I said, Undead is a tricky one. Against Tomb King's infantry, Beastmen might do okay. But the problem is the Beastmen really rely on like a quick route, and you can't do a quick route on Tomb Kings. So that one gets tough, even though there are certain pieces of that matchup that the Beastmen would enjoy. So when it comes to team battles, they can be a fun factor because of their ability to vanguard deploy, and then because they can also receive some support from other factions that make up for some of their weaknesses. Anyway, appreciate Ungram and Funnyman for an awesome battle here. This one was a lot of fun. On the Skaven side, you can see some of the Plague Monks, like this one here, picking up some nice kills. I thought the Warp Grinder was well used. It's not going to show a ton of kills here, but it did shut down a couple of areas, did some damage to some key units, and really helped the Wheels of Doom here cause a ton of damage. Poor Ikit Claw took a beating that you didn't see on camera from the Minotaurs with great weapons early on. He did get away, but not forever, obviously. And he was caught eventually. The Skaven Slaves did exactly what they needed to. Again, a cheap unit, but look what they allowed the Wheels of Doom to accomplish. So you got to remember how these units are synergizing. So very, very fun armies here, fun battle. Hope you all enjoyed this one, and I do hope you're enjoying your Monday quarantine. Stay healthy, folks. Stay safe. I will keep trying to get content to you. I am having trouble with my internet. I've been in contact with my ISP. They're going to get me some new equipment. They think that something's wrong with some of my equipment. Hopefully it will help. That's why, I'm trying to do as many videos as I can, but it's been very hard to even upload one video a day because the upload speeds. Obviously, I would love to be streaming several times a week because I'm working from home and it's easier for me to do so. But, yeah, the upload speeds haven't allowed it. I'm doing what I can, though, and I hope you all are enjoying it. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you soon with some more Total War Warhammer 2 content.